Presented by the National Center on Improving Literacy. Nancy Nelson, National Center on Improving Literacy, Professional Development and Technical Assistant Strand, co-lead.
The National Center on Improving Literacy is a national center that was authorized under the Every Student Succeeds Act. Funding began October 1st, 2016, where our focus is on identifying supports and practices that are evidence-based, that are designed to support students with literacy-related disabilities achieve improved literacy outcomes. The center is funded to the University of Oregon, and it's a partnership with Florida Center for Reading Research and RMC Corporation. We have a lot of evidence and data from national assessments and international assessments that students are struggling in the area of literacy, particularly students with disabilities. And so we see that there's tremendous need to improve literacy practices across the grade span, pre-K through grade 12, to support students with literacy-related disabilities become better readers, better writers, better students, better citizens of the world. The primary goal of the National Center is to make sure that that evidence gets into the hands of educators and that they have actual tools and resources that help them implement those practices effectively. So we have 3 levels of professional development that we're tasked with providing through the National Center. The first is universal professional development, which are resources and tools that we're collating based on existing evidence for supporting students with literacy-related disabilities. That technical assistance is not necessarily intended to change practice, but it is intended to improve access to high-quality information. We also have targeted professional development and technical assistance where we're trying to customize information for large groups of stakeholders, but not necessarily providing intensive on-the-ground support. And our goal, because we want to actually change practice, is that we work with technical assistance providers very closely who are working with teachers on the ground to change practice by using the resources that we're collating and pushing out so that they are able to bridge that research to practice gap. So we work with state education agencies, local education agencies, parents and family groups, technical assistance providers, institutes of higher education, basically anyone who is targeting improved student literacy as a goal. We have 5 priorities of the National Center. The first is focused on identifying evidence-based screening and identification tools and instruments that are cost-effective and efficient for school districts to implement. The second is instruction and intervention that is evidence-based and identifying resources to support folks who will implement that instruction, but also others who need to know about that instruction and intervention in order to support school systems to effectively implement it. So our third then priority strand that stems from that is supporting parents and families to understand and be able to advocate for their children with literacy-related disabilities in school settings by knowing information that's related to high-quality and evidence-based screening, identification, instruction, and intervention practices. Our fourth priority is the focus on educators themselves. So it's all of our professional development and technical assistance work with SEAs, LEAs, and others who are actively working in the school setting to support outcomes for students with literacy-related disabilities. And then our last strand is focused on dissemination and how we get all of this information out to reach the variety of stakeholders we're intended to support. Most of our work is focused on working with state education agencies and with other technical assistance providers because in doing so, they can work with others, districts within their state or with other states and districts that the technical assistance providers are working with in order to make sure that the practices get into the hands of those who need them. So essentially we use a model demonstration approach or a trainer of trainers approach, as we might call it, to make sure that the information gets down to those who really need it. NCIL does not endorse specific interventions or programs. We do endorse the use of evidence-based practices, and we are steadfast in adhering to evidence-based practices in terms of what we recommend and the materials that we'll put out. So even in cases where there isn't rigorous evidence accrued, we will identify the most evidence-based practices that do exist. So if there's not a high level of rigorous evidence to support an individual practice or program, we will look at the evidence that is available and find the evidence that is most close to the rigorous standards that we want to reach. and work over time to try and accrue additional research evidence with our other partners across the country, researchers and others that are working in this space, to make sure that practitioners, educators, SEAs, LEAs, parents and families, everyone that we work with has access to the best available information. I do what I do because I'm invested in supporting student outcomes. I'm a school psychologist by training, a former special education teacher. I have children of my own. I want to make sure that students have the best available education because in doing so, we give them opportunity.
The research reported here is funded by awards to the National Center on Improving Literacy from the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education in partnership with the Office of Special Education Programs, Award Number S283D1600003. The opinions expressed are those of the authors and do not represent views of the OESE, OSEP, or the U.S. Department of Education. Copyright National Center on Improving Literacy.